too loud? Okay. Monday, September 12th, 2022, call to order the workshop session. First item of business is discussion and presentation from the Hill Country 100 Club. Oh, okay. Better?
How about now? That better?
Better.
This is more for recording or for projection, or both? Very good. Once again, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, thank you very much. Let me express my appreciation for you allowing me to come before you this evening to make a brief presentation and a request on behalf of the Hill Country 100 Club. My name is Mark Whitaker. I am the newest board of director for the Hill Country 100 Club. I was voted in July, and as such, have also been tasked with doing some presentations. It's not that I'm not accustomed, I am very accustomed to it. I just recently retired a little over a year ago for 41 years in a law enforcement profession. My last 35 and a half were with the city of Marble Falls, and I had the distinct honor of being their police chief for 3 months shy of 30 years. So again, I know you all are busy, you have a lot to contend with. I've had the distinct privilege also of having worked over those years with your current Chief Cummings, Chief Bailey, Chief Angerman, and Chief Bender, and even one before that, but age has gotten me. I don't remember the chief before that, but I go back many years in this area here. But I know that many of y'all are probably aware of what the 100 Club is and what their functions are, but if you will, just allow me a little bit of time to explain. The concept of a 100 Club was conceived approximately 1952, 1953 in Houston, Texas by a group of business owners and philanthropists that wanted to provide assistance to the families of fallen police officers. Their number one goal was to take care of those that had fallen in the line of duty, take care of their families, and provide some financial assistance to their families. And that was the beginning. They invited 100 of their closest friends and associate businesses to join in to pay an annual fee of $100. That hadn't changed, and I'll get to that in a little bit over the years. But that's the concept. It started in Houston, and over that period of time, we now have approximately 32, 33 100 clubs throughout the state of Texas, and just a little under 20 nationwide. It's starting to take hold and grow outside the state of Texas. Not all counties and locations in Texas are covered, but about 2/3 of the state is covered by a 100 Club. The Hill Country 100 Club was formed back in 2001 by a group of concerned business folks and concerned citizens that were interested in providing that same assistance for the first responders in Burnett County. Since that time, the Hill Country 100 Club has expanded. We now cover Blanco, Burnett, Lampasas, and Llano counties. And in those 4 counties, there's approximately 67 agencies that fall under the umbrella of the Hill Country 100 Club. Our immediate mission and our only goal is to provide immediate financial and emotional assistance to the families of fallen first responders. Now, it started out just police officers in Houston, and there are still some clubs in the state of Texas that only provide that assistance to police officers only. The Hill Country 100 Club, we cover both police, fire, EMS, and a couple of years ago when the state of Texas also recognized our communications officers as first responders as well. So our immediate deal would be is if one of them died in the line of duty or were severely injured, we, within 24 to 48 hours, will meet with that family and provide them a check. If it's a fallen individual and died in the line of duty, provide a check of $25,000, giving them the assistance to give them some peace of mind immediately up front. In addition, we also provide assistance to those that are severely injured. We will provide in that same period of time within 24 to 48 hours, up to $5,000 immediate funding. Now, I know, and I'm not familiar with the fire side of the house or EMS and whatnot, more so on the police side of the house because of my past experience. There are other funds out there because people will ask, well, isn't there something else for these fallen folks? There is, through the state and through the federal government, but the state takes anywhere from 12 to 18 months to go through their process before those funds will become available to the family. And on the federal side of the house, it can be as cumbersome of up to 2 to 3 years. So we are the first to come in and provide that immediate assistance to the individuals. In addition to that, we also provide up to 10 scholarships to the youth in the four-county area that want to go off to college or go to a higher education institution. We'll provide up to 10 $2,000 scholarships annually to those individuals that want to pursue a career as a first responder. Many of those that we've provided that assistance to over the last several years have come back into the four-county area and taken up jobs as a first responder, as either police, fire, EMS, or as a communications officer as well. Annually, we provide a banquet where we bring in all 67 agencies and give them the opportunity to sit down. We provide a meal to network with one another and to recognize one member from each of those agencies throughout the four-county area. Now, funding for this is done through the collection of membership funds, and the Hill Country 100 Club currently, as of last month's tally, had approximately 450 members throughout the four-county area that provide assistance for this funding mechanism. The 100 Club has 3 major fundraisers throughout the year. The first and the biggest is its annual golf tournament, and where we ask individuals to come in, they pay a fee to play golf, but we also ask for sponsorships, and that's part of the reason why I'm here this evening is twofold. One, thank you for y'all's past participation and assistance with sponsorship with our golf tournament, but also requesting your assistance again this year. And by the way, the golf tournament, for those of y'all that golf, is next Monday, and it's at Apple Rock in Horseshoe Bay. It's a nice course, so I highly invite you all to come, and that also goes for the folks in the audience here this evening as well. Those are the things that is the main fundraiser that we have. The second is what is called a Cops and Cowboys Shoot in Blanco County the end of October, where law enforcement, individuals from the community come in and have competition with pistols and shooting clays competition as well. That's a fundraiser for us. Our third fundraiser is on Good Friday of every year. The local McDonald's chains within the four-county area allow us to come in, and we're able to sit down and present to folks our pamphlet, tell them about the 100 Club, and a portion of the proceeds that they receive at those McDonald's franchise chains that day come to the club as well. Membership for the 100 Club is annual dues for an individual is $100, or if you want a life membership, it's $1,000 membership for life membership that could be paid out over 4 years. Businesses also can become members. It's a $250 annual fee to become a member, or $2,500 can be paid out over 4 years to be a life member. First responders as well can become members, and that's how I initially became a member many years ago, was $500 paid out over 4 years, and then you're a life member, or they can pay $50 annually if they so choose. It's strictly a volunteer organization. It's a nonprofit 501c3 group. All of our proceeds, with the exception of about 1 to 2%, which go to postage and printing of pamphlets and other material, is the only thing that is expended out of those funds. Pretty much that is the short version of 100 Club, Hill Country 100 Club. And again, I thank you for your past participation, and the request is we would appreciate your sponsorship again this year. And then I'm open for any questions that any of y'all may have.
Very worthwhile organization, Mark. We appreciate you coming to us.
We should have some guys, I think Chief Cummins and Chief Smith, you got 4? You're working on it. You better hurry.
With that sponsorship comes the $4,000 sponsorship comes to teams of 4, the meals and everything that comes with that. So,
Thank you.
welcome. I didn't see you back there, Chief Cummings. I talked about you. Any questions? All right. We thank you very much for your participation, and thank you for allowing me to be here this evening.
Thank
Y'all have a
you.
good evening.
Thank you, sir. Next item is discussion regarding the interlocal agreement with LISD for the school resource officers.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You have a copy of the draft agreement, and again, what I would consider a 95% draft agreement in your packet. And I do want to highlight just a couple of items from the summary page. One is that Council made the request for the city to ask the LISD for 100% as outlined in Exhibit A in terms of the costs would be inclusive of benefits and training, et cetera, for both new SROs. The school has come back and asked that they'll reimburse 100% for one and 75% or 9 months for the other. However, in consideration for the equipment and vehicles, they would want to make a one-time, for the term of this agreement, payment to the city. And actually that payment, it says $50,000, but we'd ask that council provide latitude to staff under consideration on the regular agenda to go to $49,500. Just a couple of very quick items that I will point out. Page 9 does include in section 1.1 the program goals. It does also outline in 1.3 the school responsibilities. And you know, one thing that I would point out, and I think Chief Cummings may or may not help me out with this as well, but we're not there for school discipline. We're there for the role of instruction, of creating that relationship, criminal acts, and probably crime avoidance in a lot of cases. So that is outlined in 1.3. It is very clear, 1.5, that these are city employees. They report to the chief of police or his designee. The term is 3 years. That is identified in 2.1. The payment has been, we have requested a change in the payment. They typically will pay us once a year at the end of the year. And what we've asked for in this agreement is to pay 50% of the estimated costs by October 15th. And then we'll do a true-up at the end of the year and make sure that as the contract specifies, actual costs are trued up at the end of the year so that we can finalize. That way we're not banking it for the entire year. So I think it's a reasonable consideration that they've agreed to. In 3.1, that outlines the consideration or exactly what we're paying for. And that under A, it's 3 officers at 9 months or 75%. Those would include the middle school and elementary school campuses. In B, it outlines the 2 SROs at 100%, which would be the sergeant supervisor as well as the high school SRO. And then the item C, which again we would ask under the regular agenda to provide staff latitude to take that amount down to $49,500, and that would be paid on or before August 30th. The other thing that you will see that we have included not only in this agreement but in the subsequent agreement with the county is we've added some latitude to the city. And really it's somewhat of a force majeure, but it's not really a force majeure. It just says we're going to have the latitude based on workforce availability, as is in the case where we've got limited pools of folks coming in to apply for a job, people are struggling with vacancies. We just want to put them on notice that if that is the case, we may authorize overtime to fill those slots and those responsibilities. We may have supervisory positions come in and assist, but at no time will those, and they will pay the actual costs of those, but in an amount not to exceed what we've already estimated that the regular, had we been fully staffed, pay for. So we wanted to let them know that yes, those would be actual costs that they would incur, but certainly provide some protection for the school district and a good faith effort that we aren't going to double dip on them either. So we think, as I said, I think we've tried to address everything that council has asked us to. We did get the counter of the one-time payment, which monetarily is a wash, probably within $1,000, and we'd ask for your consideration on the regular agenda for this. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Council, any questions?
I was just curious because I know we had put out for the jobs. We advertised for the jobs. Have we had any applicants?
Yes, we have. Knock on wood, optimistically, though we haven't had a lot of applicants, we do have one outside applicant that's new to our area who has a spouse that is also new to LISD as an educator. He's currently working near here, but he's very interested in being an SRO, and we've done quite a bit of background, and it looks very favorable should this go forward here tonight and with the school board as well. We do have one internal person that has showed some interest prior and is very interested at this moment into moving into the school, and we would need to backfill that patrol position. Fortunately, though we don't have a lot of applicants for regular patrol officers, we do have a couple to consider right now that I think would fit in and do well for us that might could come in and backfill. So again, with the trouble we're having filling officer positions, optimistically as I stand here tonight, it looks like we could fill positions and move people fairly quickly if this works out.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you, Finley. If not, we'll move on to item number 4, discussion regarding interlocal agreement with Lampasas County for EMS services.
Mayor and Council, this again will be administered by Chief Cummings and his team and the PD through dispatch, which will be located at our PD office right next door. I think one item that I would point out is that the consideration is phased. You've got a year one consideration where we have some upfront costs, for example, software, as well as the increased compensation for our current dispatchers. So everybody that was on the payroll that's now required to do the EMD certification will get a bump, and that incremental increase is being covered by the county as well. And then in years 2 through 5, as the agreement states, the county would reimburse the city for salary and benefit expenses for 3 of the dispatchers. I might just highlight a couple of quick items on the draft that's included in your packet. You do have on page 25 of your packet all the definitions. It does ask that under A, dispatching services on page 26, that the county and the city get together twice a year, either through operational representatives, or I don't know why council couldn't be involved in that meeting as well, just to make sure everything's going all right. We do have a 180-day termination by either party for cause, as well as we have to get together 180 days prior to the conclusion of the term of this contract so that we can decide if we want to go for another 5 years or other term. And again, that was some criticism of the current contract, or the previous contract that the county had, in that they only had 90 days to really flush out what they were going to do with ambulance services, and also what we were going to have to do to assist them with their dispatch service. Also, beginning on page 26, it does outline the dispatching services and the city's responsibilities, as well as some of the county's responsibilities through 17 items there. The term is for 5 years. The initial consideration, again, in year one is outlined on page 30. There is a not to exceed for year one of $282,000. That was the initial estimate that Chief Cummings came up with. Years 2 through 5, again, it does outline the consideration inclusive of upgrades to equipment and cost of training, et cetera, of 3 ambulance service dispatchers. Again, on page 32, we also have another paragraph that I asked our legal counsel to include that would just be provide the city a little more latitude on workforce availability, in that, hey, if Kelly has to pinch hit, or if we have to pay some overtime, we would actually charge them the actual costs that were incurred to fill those services. However, that cost would not be any greater than what we had originally estimated, and it should not be. I think that the county will probably take this up formally on the 26th, although they have received a copy. They could not get it on their agenda for today, but they've also expressed to me, and I don't know that it's necessary unless Chief Cummings does, but they've also expressed to me that if they felt like they needed to have a special called meeting, then they could do that. However, I take in good faith that if they have any issues with the agreement, they'll bring it back to us, and they'll be very, very minor, if that. And I'd ask Chief Cummings to make any comments related to that.
I'm sorry, do we have a specific question? Anything? As far as I know, the judge has had it since last Thursday. We had several text messages and phone calls over Thursday and Friday, and their copy has gone to their legal. And I did not check with him this morning, but I thought we'd get through tonight. And I know they had Commissioners Court this morning. Thought I might give him a call tomorrow just to see if he's heard from their legal. But I think he is waiting to hear back from them to see if there's any issues or any changes, and that's our next step. But he thought from there, again, as Finley said, they'd be very minor, and I think we can move forward as quick as they can get it in front of their Commissioners Court again.
Be happy to answer any other questions, or call Chief Cummings back up here again if you like.
Very good, Finley, with staff. You know, it was a very short fused thing for both these documents, and I mean, you all would be congratulated for getting it wrapped up as well as we did. When you start talking about losing ambulance service within 90 days, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, and really the credit goes to Chief Cummings and his team, and Kelly and Chuck and all the other folks that really scrambled and got things put together. And to be honest with you, just in the previous agenda item, we were thinking that we might be able to fill the SROs maybe by spring semester. And we're pleased to be where we are, and certainly we think that's a credit to not only the PD and the leadership over there, but it's also a credit to the ability of the city to respond and react that quickly. So, any other questions? You will have this on the regular agenda for consideration, and the consideration will be that you provide the staff the latitude to make minor adjustments. We're not changing any of the major terms that we've discussed with you, but certainly grammatical and otherwise, I think we would certainly recommend that consideration from council.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 5, discussion regarding short-term rentals.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. This item was brought to our attention back in June by Councilmember Caney. She'd want us to research and try to gather some data regarding short-term rentals. During that time, we actually had it on as a reporting item for 2 council members, 2 council meetings, just to kind of show what staff was doing, gathering data. At this time, We've continued to gather data with researching best practices for other municipalities. Some municipalities, such as City of Burnett or City of Coppers Cove, are not participating in any type of regulatory for short-term rentals. And then you have Fredericksburg, that's on the totally opposite in the spectrum, and they just revitalized a 101-page ordinance. So it kind of goes both directions. The development of this type of regulation has to be done methodical with consideration to factors such as the community, the property owners, enforcement, regulatory authority, and reasonable expectations. This item was presented to the Planning Commission on September 1st, meeting to just gauge their thoughts and direction regarding short-term rentals. At this time, the Commission did not feel with the handful of advertised properties available within the city limits, it was worth pursuing as a priority at this time. However, at council discretion, staff and the Planning Commission will continue to move forward with the process as directed. Staff did advise the Commission that I will continue to gather data, still look at the best practices, still look at regulatory information to see how we move forward with this. I did reach out to the City of Marble Falls because they just recently enacted just a few months ago short-term rentals. And they've actually contracted this work out. So they have contracted a vendor that'll actually go out and they do all the research for them. They look through the appraisal district, they identify properties that are used as short-term rentals. They send out notifications, they collect it, all the fees, they do the application process, and they have a fee, of course. They're charged $13,000 a year for them to provide this service to Marble Falls. Now, with that being said, they've only identified 20 short-term rentals as of right now. They do send out notifications to them, letting them know they need to register within the City of Marble Falls. So that is another fee that would be incurred as far as postage and mailing out. And then, of course, there would be cited, letting them know that if you don't comply with the next number of days, you'll get another notice or possibly a fine. So it continues to get a little more muddy as it continues on with the process if they don't comply. They are, like I said, it is still new. They'll probably have a lot of discretionary over the next year or so because it is kind of getting fillers out. The reason why they started the process was by community complaints. So somebody had brought it to their attention that, hey, there's a short-term rental next to me, or vice versa. It just kind of depends on how it all came. But it was based on the community outreach is how it was kind of brought to their attention. I did, in the packet, there are some things that I've kind of jotted down, things to consider with regarding to the short-term rentals, because again, this is something we're gonna have to really be methodical about, make sure we can enforce it, make sure we can regulate it, make sure we get community buy-in, make sure we get feedback from them on what works and what doesn't work. So we have to, identify what a short-term rental is, which is gonna be less than 30 days. So if they're renting out property for less than 30 days, it's considered a short-term rental. Property owners registering property within the city. Do we have enough manpower to enforce? Who's gonna regulate that? How do we know they're doing a short-term rental? And then the biggest registration part is gonna be for our hot fund funding that we get back in that when they claim that information, they provide that to us. Zoning districts, do we want to do this in residential, commercial, retail? Do we want to define what area we will allow short-term rentals, or do we want to just kind of leave it open at this point? Max occupancy, looking through various cities, they have an application process they go through, and they require a site plan, a floor plan, the egress, the ingress, what do you have on your property? Do you have a pool? Does the pool fence? Does it have the locking gate like it's supposed to? How many parking spaces can you have? Max occupancy per bedroom, how many beds do you have? I mean, there is so much enforcement regulated with this. Quiet hours, at 10 o'clock, everybody has to be in the house by a certain time, or no more than X number of people can be outside after 10 p.m. There's just lots of variances to this. Fees, of course, some cities have a registration fee, so they can go anywhere from $50 to $250, and they can actually do it based on property. So if you have 10 properties that you have in town for short-term rentals, they might do registration at $50 or $100 or $150 or $250, or depending on how their actual scale is created. For enforcement, of course, is going to be staff time and resources. Right now, with only having 4 or 5 that we know of, as far as what's been advertised, is it going to be, advantageous for us to pursue it with the amount of staff and resources we'll have versus what we might get back in hot funds? If they actually report it, we can get them on board to register with the city. and then move forward with that. So I kind of did like an example to show you, because we get 7% revenue off of our hotel occupancy tax. So let's just say the average is $150 a night. If a short-term rental was actually utilized for a month, you're looking annually, that could be $1,500 annually that we would obtain. The other cities that are actually getting assistance with the enforcement, they're paying, the least I found was $7,500 for a contractor, and that was out of Lakeway. And then, like I said, Marble Falls is $13,000. So we kind of have to gauge what we want to do moving forward, how we want to enforce it, and when it's going to be the right time for Lampasas to be able to engage this. Because there is no zoning regulation at all for a short-term rental. The only thing that we have right now is a bed and breakfast. That's the only thing that we are regulating. So right now, if we were to put this in place, we have to look at all these factors that we have to consider and move forward and make sure that we're doing it correctly. So just something to consider. Again, I'm not stopping the data collection. I'm still reaching out to my peers. I'm still looking to see what's the best for us. I just don't know that at this time it's right for us to make it a priority, as far as a top priority. That is my...
Have you checked into the, that VRBO and the Airbnb to see how many in our area that they have?
Yeah.
3?
Yeah, there's only like 3 or 4. Now, even with one of those, and I haven't triple checked, but from even one of those, the actual homeowner lives there, and they are utilizing it as an Airbnb, I guess, certain times throughout the year. So it's really their homestead, and then they rent it out, I guess, go somewhere else for a weekend. So it's kind of a unique situation. So yes, there are 3 or 4 that I've seen that I believe are in the city limits.
Okay. I know we've got one up in New Mexico, and and we pay all of our city taxes to the city through the VRBO
Correct.
system, and then they in turn
Yes.
pass that along.
And that is correct. And I was looking at the comptroller's website, and yes, if they're signed up with Airbnb website, they do collect those fees for them and send them off. However, with that being said, I don't know how the connection is between who owns it, where those resources are going, how does it get to the comptroller, and how does it get back to the city if they're not registered. So that's the piece that I'm still researching to find that out too. So, but yes, that would be wonderful if they did that for us.
Yeah, because I think that, right now, you're saying it's not a priority, but this is the time to put something in effect while there's not a whole lot, because this is going to be nothing but growing, especially over, because we've got the eclipse coming. But we are more and more behind the 8 ball and stuff like that. And this is one of those things that we really need to look at, because if we don't get in front of it, we're already going to be behind. Now, I agree that we don't need to go hire some company for 3 or 4 houses, but the people that are advertising are collecting money for the taxes, and those taxes are not coming to us. Even though they're minimal, there are people paying that, so the question is, where is that stuff going? But I think if we had some kind of ordinance, maybe we could umbrella it underneath the bed and breakfast, since we already have that established.
Well, we can't just modify, we would have to create. And like I said, I just want to make sure that we do it correctly. And
Correct, I
that's
agree.
the main thing. And even when you said with like the eclipse or even Spring Hoe, any event, there's no way we would be able to enforce it on a good day, because there's so many people, there's so much going on. And just like with the eclipse, we're already talking about parking on the highways or parking at different locations, or people using their acreage and just selling it off for somebody to sleep in a tent. There's no way they would come forward and register their property that's their homestead as a Airbnb.
But if
or
they're
short-term
advertising
rentals.
it in Airbnb and in VRBO, which these people already are, there's one on the square.
But
And if they're
even-
already advertising that and they're collecting funds, then I think this is something valid and worth at least trying to get something set up.
But I completely understand, and I will do whatever council, direction wants us to.
I don't have a problem with continuing to look into it and see, but I can tell you right now, it could be upside down pretty quick if we're not real careful
Absolutely.
with this.
could.
And And also, we have such a limited staff in that area right now. I think we would certainly have to, we were gonna try to enforce those kind of things.
Well,
We're gonna have to add somebody.
yeah, instead of trying to enforce that, I mean, if you're, you know, my understanding is kind of an automatic deal with the VRBO and the Airbnb and those type of things. I mean, you could kind of start small. I don't think enforcement, I would agree with you on that, but if they could, everybody that's registered on those VRBOs, you know, money should be going into the city's pocket instead of up into the sky somewhere.
Well, we have to make sure that it is a very inclusive ordinance that we put together to make sure, so we can't
Gotcha.
just say that if
So
you're
we're
signed
talking
up
about
with.
an ordinance versus, yeah, I see what
Absolutely.
you're
I mean, it's
saying.
gonna be something that'll have to be incorporated into my zoning regs, and it'll be an ordinance. So it's something that we only wanna do once. I mean, we can make modifications.
I got you.
But just because they're signed up at Airbnb doesn't necessarily mean we're gonna get the funds because they come register with us, because we don't have a policy in place. We don't have an ordinance in place. So I don't know how it all works behind the scenes, and I'm still researching that with the comptroller, how all that works.
Okay.
But, I mean, there's just a lot to consider.
I think one thing that we need to clarify, the comptroller does not receive our funds for our current hot funds. We collect those locally. My guess is that those funds that are collected for hotel occupancy tax are the state portion, because the municipalities, just like sales tax, can have different levels or different percentages. So I don't think that they're already paying the comptroller, and the comptroller isn't giving them back to us like sales taxes. I think that is a fee that's always been collected locally, so they pay us directly. So I think that's one thing that we would want to clarify. It's not that those funds we aren't getting them back from the comptroller when they're collected or when that tenant pays it. It's just that we're not set up to take it from that Airbnb owner. So we need to get some clarification on that as well.
It makes sense.
I don't think we need the policy, the ordinance in place. I don't think there's a need for it this time. I think the manpower it's gonna take, it's not gonna be worth the result, my opinion.
And I did want to go back to what you had stated about downtown. You want to keep in mind that that is kind of a mixed-use area, so that as long as they have retail at the bottom, they can use it as an apartment upstairs. So they can advertise to rent that room, to rent that location out too. So that's a little different in our central business district too. So,
I mean, we could direct those efforts to improving the beautification of the town. The businesses that need to improve some of their dilapidated, that's what we could address, in my opinion.
yes, sir, and I think substandard structures is a big one, I do.
Any other questions? Thank you, Becky. Next one is the discussion regarding height restrictions for specific zoning districts.
Okay, again, this is something that we've been talking about for a few months now. This was recently brought to our attention by the assisted living out on 281 with regards to their expansion of their assisted living. They wanted to add 2 4-story apartments for age restriction and then 1 2-story. Well, when we look at our zoning regs, we don't have anything that big. There's nothing that we have that'll allow a 4-story structure. So kind of looking through other municipalities to seeing what others were doing and how it was being presented and how it was being designated, I came up with a chart that I've attached in your packet. So a lot of them, how they did it was based on the lot and the depth of the property. They basically extended it out by 10 feet, depending on the story. And then with their setbacks, they modified those by 5 feet on each side. So right now, like 3 stories is 45 feet approximately, and then your 4 stories is approximately 55 feet in height. So if you look through this, I did not touch anything on residential because right now residential is 2.5 stories and that's ample. It's pretty much the same other municipalities in our area. So I started with the apartment complexes that we have, and you can see that right now our minimum lot width is 100. This would put it to 110, and then the 125 would go to 135. the front yard setback is at 40, it would go to 45, and then your rear yard would be 20 to 25, and then the minimum for your side yard would go from 15 to 20. And that goes from 3 stories, which is what we have in our zoning regs now, to 4 stories with a max of 55. And that kind of shows you how the chart is presented as we move forward. So like with Central Business District, I left it alone because 3 stories is ample for that area. Same with commercial. I think 3 stories is ample for that district. I don't think it calls for anything higher than a 3-story. For light industrial, right now it was at 2-story. I just wanted to kind of conform it and use it the same as we do with our heavy industrial, which is at 3 stories. And I made that to max for that as well. So this is pretty standard with what other municipalities are doing. I did present this to my planning commission at their September 1st meeting, and they didn't have any modifications, amendments, corrections. They liked the way the flow went. So I look forward to any feedback y'all might have.
How does that affect multi-use, where you've got retail on the bottom and apartments on the top?
What do you mean?
What would that be considered? Would that be considered apartments?
Well, the only place that we have that would be downtown in Central Business District, and that I'm not touching right now. It's max at 3 stories. So that's not part of this.
What about the Mike Irvin thing? Would that be handled with the special use permit?
It's going to be a planned development, and that's something we've already rectified within our zoning regs to make sure. It's going to be a podium structure, and we've already modified to meet that type of a planned development on our zoning regs a few years ago. So it's not included in this type of chart, this type of feedback.
So we'd handle everything else to a PD?
Yes.
That's what you're saying?
Typically, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
And just as a reminder, the PD has a minimum footprint or a minimum lot size, and I believe that's 3 acres. And based on the size and the scale that you can accommodate within that area, I believe it was a 5/2 was the max.
Yep.
So you're talking about a 7-story building in a planned development. Planned developments are brought to council for approval. And the other consideration that we ask, I believe, within the ordinance or within the PD is that you also have to take into account the scale of that compared to the surrounding areas. And for example, under Mr. Irvin's development, you're right there next to grain silos. You already have things that it wouldn't be out of scale in that particular location as well. So
Visibility wouldn't be affected.
Is there any way then under this scenario that the apartments can be built?
Yes, for the assisted living, absolutely. Now, I say that we are allowing and modifying our heights restrictions to be able to accommodate. We still have to identify the floor plan, the footprint, the setbacks. Everything else has to be considered. We've done a concept plan with them, and it was going to fit, but we also have to relocate some utilities. So there's still work to be done at that development, that location. But yes, this will allow them to go vertical as they originally had planned. Does that make sense?
Council, any other questions? Sounds like that's one we're going to be dealing with for a while. Possibly, yeah.
So any additional feedback for me? Any more research on this, or does that make sense?
Makes sense.
It'll come back to planning, and it'll come back to y'all once we have it created into an ordinance format. I just wanted to get y'all's feedback.
Okay, thank you, Becky.
You're welcome.
Discussion regarding annual city board renewals. That's again you, Beck.
Yes, this is something that I do every year in September. I kind of provide y'all with an overview of the terms that are expiring per board, and then I actually kind of give you a definition of what they mean so that you kind of have a clear picture on what we're doing moving forward. At this time, I've identified all of the terms that are expiring, and I've had really good feedback with those that want to renew. We don't have a lot that are not wanting to. I did have one on my EDC board who is not going to be renewing this year. I do have one on library board that will not be renewing. And then Mr. Grayson on my ZBA has decided not to renew as an alternate. But other than that, I've had really good successes. We've started advertising again to get more public, involvement and getting more opportunities for various community members to volunteer for our boards. So I have received quite a few of those as well. I don't have an exact number, but I will definitely notify y'all, let y'all know when we go to re-up for the renewals for these individual boards. Also in here is the presentation that I do each year, and this describes each of the boards and then what their makeup of and how they're created and then what days they meet. So in case y'all have anybody who's interested in a particular board, you can share this with them. This presentation is actually sent out on social media as well, so that the community is involved and they know what each department does or each board does, because I think that's important before they sign up for it, to understand what their role will be. And then on the actual little chart, I kind of showed you, like for my construction board, it's trades. So they have to make sure that, that I have a specific electrical trade, a plumbing trade, a mechanical trade. I have a construction member, I have a financial member. So they're very specific, kind of like our airport board requires pilots. So some of them are very specific. Our parks board has it identified by different communities out in the organizations. So it just kind of depends on what the makeup is to make that board, just to make sure that there's a lot of unique qualities about them. But if y'all have any questions, let me know. This is just the first step. But I do anticipate starting to bring them to you to start renewing their board applications.
Becky, when do most of them expire? The end of September?
Yes, that's when we do them all for all of our boards. They just on a rotating basis. So some of our terms are 2 years, some are 3, some are 5, but they all rotate out on those committees. So we're never without somebody on the board.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Sorry, I forget this mic. All right. Item number 8, discussion regarding Hostess House project design meeting date.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, following your recommendation or your suggestion at our last meeting for October 3rd for an on-site meeting with Reliance Architects, we did meet with virtually with Mr. Naylor and his associate on a 50% plan set. Also talked about a possible meeting date. They're going to be out of pocket on October 3rd. Wanted to know if October 17th would be acceptable. I did have the opportunity to run this by Councilman Morris earlier, and that seemed to work for him, but wanted to check and see if October 17th would work for you.
Works for me.
We're talking about a 5:30 meeting, if that would work with you for your schedules.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes, sir.
And we'll try to get you the most recent plan set. I think the last plan set, did we hand out the 50%?
Yes,
And 100, yes.
we've got it.
Well, and we've got a design and development. We had a 50% design and development, 100% design and development. Now we're on a 50% construction plan set. So we'll make sure we get you the most recent plan set that we have as soon as we can, so everybody's prepared. But I'll tell Mr. Naylor that we'll shoot for the 17th. Thank you.
Item number 9, discussion regarding any item on the regular agenda. Is there any council member that wants to discuss an item on the regular agenda? If not, we'll adjourn the workshop session. Do we need a 10-minute break, 15-minute break, council?
No, sir.
You good? Let's go right on into the regular session then.
You make a motion?
Yeah.
A motion to adjourn workshop session.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Jody.
Join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this group of fine people that are here today to take care of your business. We pray that you'll be with everyone here with great communication on both sides. We can share things openly and freely and make good decisions for the betterment of your people as a whole. As we look out the windows, we thank you for the green grass as the cooler weather is coming. And if you feel fit to send us a little more, we'd certainly be appreciative. We ask that you be with us in safety tonight. be within safety as we head home to our families and our friends. We ask that you be with us until we can meet again. Forgive us of our sins, and in Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, we have a call to order of the regular session. First item of business, of course, has been taken care of by Jody and them. Presentations and proclamations. There's two of them. I'll be reading both of them, please. Library Card Sign-Up Month Proclamation. Whereas libraries and librarians play a crucial role in the education and development of children, whereas librarians are literacy experts offering everything from preschool story hours to summer reading clubs that sustain school year learning. Whereas libraries provide a learning environment that fosters joyful exploration, encouraging students to research subjects that they are genuinely curious about. Whereas librarians create welcoming and inclusive spaces for people of all backgrounds to learn together and to engage with one another. Whereas librarians provide a variety of books and resources to serve everyone in the community, making knowledge and ideas available so that people have the freedom to choose what to read. Whereas a library card empowers all people to pursue their dreams, explore new passions and interests, and find their voice. Whereas libraries are constantly transforming to deliver new services that connect closely with community needs, even during a pandemic. Therefore, it is resolved that I, Chuck Williamson, Mayor Pro Tem of Lampasas, proclaim September as Library Card Sign-Up Month in Lampasas, Texas, and encourage everyone to sign up for their own library card today. In witness whereof, I have hereby set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Lampasas, Texas, to be affixed this 12th day of September 2022. So signed. Next proclamation is National Chiropractic Health Month. I see one of them out there. Where's Craig? There he is. Whereas the opioid crisis continues to take a toll on the health and lives of millions of Americans and has worsened in some communities during the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, as many as 1 in 4 patients who receive prescription opioids long-term for non-cancer pain struggles with addiction, and from 1999 to 2000, more than 260,000 people died in the U.S. from overdoses involving prescription opioids. Whereas the interest in and the need for greater access to safe and effective non-drug, non-invasive approaches to pain and management has increased. Whereas the American College of Physicians, ACP, released updated low back pain treatment guidelines in 2017 that promote the use of non-invasive, non-drug approaches such as spinal manipulation as a first line of defense against back pain before the use of pain medications and surgery. Whereas the CDC in its draft 2022, prescribing guidelines also promotes diverse approaches and varied pain management solutions, and specifically encourages use of non-drug therapies as a first line of treatment for subacute and chronic pain and even some types of acute pain. Whereas doctors of chiropractic who focus on the whole person with their non-drug, non-invasive treatments for pain management, most notably spinal manipulation, can play an important role in helping patients lessen their reliance on pain medications. Whereas there is a growing body of research supporting the use of chronic spinal manipulation in helping patients with chronic low back pain to reduce or eliminate their need later for prescription opioid pain and medications and surgery. Whereas with the theme chiropractic on the front line for pain, Chiropractic Health Month 2022 serves as a reminder to citizens of Lampasas, Texas, that non-drug treatments for low back pain, such as spinal manipulation, provided by doctors of chiropractic, can help to lessen or eliminate the need for riskier, potential addictive treatments and should be utilized where appropriate before starting prescription opioid pain medications. Therefore, be it resolved with the City of Lampasas officially joins with the Texas Chiropractic Association, TCA, and the American Chiropractic Association, ACA, and proclaiming the month of October 2022 as Chiropractic Health Month. Signed myself this day. Sure. Okay, next item is citizen comments. Any citizen who desires to address the City Council on a matter not included on the agenda may do so at this time. The City Council may not deliberate on items presented under this agenda item. Nobody? Okay. Item 1.2, citizen comments. Any citizen who desires to address the City Council on a matter that is included on the agenda may do so at this time. Still nobody. Okay. Now we'll go into the public hearings, please. Public hearing to receive citizen comments regarding the program performance of the activities completed under the Texas Community Development Block Grant, Texas CDBG, for a sewer improvement project program grant number 7220260, which will include an explanation of the actual use of the Texas Community Development Block Grant Program funds and invite comments. Anyone from the public that wants to address the council? No. We'll close that public hearing. Next one, 1.4, public hearing to receive citizen comments regarding request for a specific use permit, SUP, to allow for an accessory structure commonly referred to as a guest house in an area zoned single-family residential 10, SF10, Lampasas County, Lampasas, Texas, for property described as Block 2, Lots 6 and 7, Fairview Addition, commonly known as 101 North Rice Street, Lampasas, Texas.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Yes, this Mr. Cooker is asking for consideration of a specific use permit for an accessory dwelling, which is commonly known as a guest house. It is currently already a structure, as I've shown in your packet. I kind of gave you some overviews of what the property looks like itself. It's been previously utilized as a workshop, and most recently they've started renovating it, making it into an additional living space. With having it as a specific use permit to allow for an accessory structure as far as a guest house, they will do like a little kitchenette in there. I did send out 26 notices to property owners within a 200-foot radius. I received 2 back in favor of the request and none in protest. I did present this to my planning commission on September the 1st, and they were in favor of approving the specific use permit. If you have any questions, Mr. Cooker is here in the audience. Otherwise, I'll be happy to answer anything I can help you with.
Anyone in the audience wants to speak to it? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to hear from Mr. Cooker as why he's wanting to do this and needing the special, I mean, because I know he wants a special use permit because it would become a guest house. I would just like to know the rationale behind it.
Sure.
Come on up, Ron, please.
So I bought this house, 101 North Rice, and it had this workshop beside it. And it's on a big lot, it's half-acre lot. So I was trying to figure out what's the best use of it. Well, my sons, both of my sons, go back and forth from California. They're in the entertainment business. And they have friends that come through and want to stay a night or two. And rather than stick them in a hotel, I decided, well, I'll just take this little building, put a bathroom in it, and it already had a room in it that could become a bedroom. And so I decided to remodel it while I was remodeling the main house. And that's all it's going to be for. It's not going to be for a rental. It's just going to be for family and friends when we need overflow. They can use it as a workout studio or whatever. So we just put a bathroom in it. And the only thing what we'll talk about later, when she said kitchenette, it's basically a stove and a fridge plugged in. And that's just if somebody stays over the weekend or for a week or two. And just extra living area, extra bedroom for overflow. That's it. So we just took a workshop, like I said, and it didn't have a ceiling. It had I put a ceiling in it and central heat and aired it and insulated it and got the permits for the bathroom. And we actually helped the city out. We got new sewer and water taps because we couldn't tie onto the main house, but we did tie onto the electricity on the main house. So nothing will have any other address, and it won't be a rental that way. It's just all accessory dwelling from the 101 North Rice. That was the intent.
So this is your personal home?
Well, I own it, but my sons rent it
Oh, okay.
when they pay rent. So,
Thank you, Ron.
any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak to it? Council?
I really don't understand what was trying to be said, but I've been told by a certain person that I should come and tell y'all that I don't want it in my area. I don't live there, my stepdad does. Y'all's been sending this letter to my mother, which has been deceased over a year. And of course, my dad just got the letter Friday, which I would have missed this meeting today if he hadn't received it. The property that I own is 1205 West First Street, which is on the corner of Fairview and First Street. It has the half moon in the front on First, and it has the long drive on Fairview. The person that told me this, they told me that it could decrease my value of my home, possibly. So that was my only concern about it. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
I guess I'm just, I mean, I think your opinion is completely valid. I'm just curious as to how they thought that would hurt your value of your home for someone making an improvement on another area. I'm just curious.
They just think that the zoning of it and whatnot, we're all in the family and all the group and, is that way. She thinks that it could decrease my value of my home around our area, is what I was told. So that's why I'm here tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we'll close that public hearing. We go to 1.5. Public hearing to receive citizen comments regarding the Gamble addition minor plat with variances being all of 2 tracts of land and part of Lot 2, Block 30 of Matthew and Wilkes addition, Lampasas, Texas, Lampasas County. Anyone
Mr.
want to
John.
speak? I'm sorry, Beck, go ahead.
Are you good?
Go ahead.
So Mr. Johnson has already presented this to my zoning board of adjustments for variances. On Lot 1, it's kind of an irregular lot, so it required some reduction in the depth of the property. It went from 110 to 105, and then a reduction in the width from 50 to 45. And my zoning board of adjustments has already approved that, and that happened back in July. Since that time, we are just doing the plat approval. So September 1, I took it to my zoning board, my planning commission for approval at that time for the plat. They're replatting it into the 3 lots as you see in your packet. They do all have city facilities. They do have their water, their sewer, and their electric. The only thing that we're doing now is asking for approval or consideration of approval of the plat with the variances to lot number 1.
Anyone here want to speak to that one? Nope. Okay, if we're not, we'll close that public hearing and we'll go to the 1.6, the last one. Public hearing to receive citizen comments regarding the minor plat of Cresta de Mesa Soledades, 613 acres out of the James R. Cook Survey, abstract number 110, Lampasas County, Texas.
This plat is a little unusual. It's actually in our ETJ, but we do supply utilities to it. We do have, water is available on all 3 tracks, and we do have electric on 2 of the tracks. But one of the track, which is track 2, will require an extension of electric service, which is why it cannot be done administratively. So it was presented to my planning commission back on September 1. They did recommend approval to council at that time. If y'all have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer anything I can. I did kind of show you an aerial, and then I included the staff report, so it kind of shows you where the location is, because like I said, it's in our ETJ, it's not inside our city limits, but we do supply utilities to it. And it will be on septic, it's not on city sewer.
Audience or anyone on the council wish to speak to that one? No, thank you. All righty, we'll close all the public hearings, please. We'll go to the minutes. Request approval of the minutes. A motion and a second, if you will, please.
A second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Consent agenda, discussion and possible action regarding purchases and charges in excess of $4,000 from August 1st, 2022 to August 31st, 2022. Item 3.2, discussion and possible action concerning the second reading of an ordinance amending Appendix A, Fee Schedule, Chapter 82, Utilities, Article 5, Section H, Water Rate of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lampasas, providing for an increase in the rates to be charged for water service by the City of Lampasas, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing a serviceability clause, and providing an effective date. Anyone want to pull either one of those agendas? If not, entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda as written.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Okay. City Manager's operational report.
Just a few brief items, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. These are included in your packet. Wanted to let you know that we did receive what I would consider the final draft of the upper pressure plane study, and as you recall, based on presentations that we've had actually over the year on this, it's really probably should be entitled the Water Master Plan for the city, because it does identify an additional western plane to the east and south, as well as the looping project from generally the Spring Street pump station all the way around to the upper pressure plane. The report also includes existing conditions, potential growth areas, future demand and capacity, hydraulic models, and recommendations. We would be happy to provide you, if you didn't want the whole book, if you'd like about 10 or 12 pages worth of summary, we'd be happy to supply that to you. Certainly, I believe in Mr. Ward's office as well as my office, we will review that, make comment to Mr. Jones of Jones Heroy, and then hopefully we'll get a stamped copy back shortly after we do that. Paving, we just wanted to report, and I know we've kind of done some ongoing reporting on our paving. Certainly we've completed much earlier the mill and overlay of a hot mix, primarily in the Siouxan subdivision and along Chestnut. We wanted to report to you that Some of our chip seal program was completed First Street from Willis to Rice, and then Fourth Street from Willis to about where Steele would normally come in, where Fourth Street dead ends on the west side of town. That is done as part of our paving program, and just as a reminder, when we prioritize roads, we don't necessarily do the worst first. We try to assess for the best value in terms of life extension of these roads. So if we can catch a road before it goes into complete failure, it makes more sense for us to invest that money at that time. Not that we forget about the worst streets, because they will eventually have to have a much, much more expensive rebuild. But that program was good. We weren't able to get Naruna done entirely. We ran a little short of emulsion, but we certainly can come back to that. Business Park, you do have included the cover page for pay application number 5. As you can see, about $89,000 is eligible for ARPA funding. Based on the pay application, that project is about 66% complete. They continue to install lifts and compact base, but they are beginning to shoot chalk lines for the curb path. The box culvert that was postponed, they had trouble getting for the culvert that was basically on the west side of the property as it runs into the old Austin Highway. That has arrived and has been installed. So I think that about covers all of the underground storm water that they'll have to do. That we'll have to pour some head walls there, but they are making good progress. And certainly, as we've always offered, if you'd like to get a hold of Mandy or Ryan, they'd be happy to take you around out there. Or I'm sure probably at our next meeting we'll have drone version number 3 come in. Sales tax continues to be a very good. September compared to September a year ago is about a 12% increase. Year to date, we're a little shy of 10% increase over where we were for year to date, or about $185,000 better than we were. Last week, prior to the publication of the memo, we were contacted by Libby Blunser, who has taken the role of at least communicating with city staff about getting a monument gateway welcome sign on the South 183 entrance into the city. She did also note that this was a project of Catherine Metzger's, one of the ones that she was on her list to do. As you know, Catherine had a rather lengthy list of community projects, and this is one of the ones they'd like to check off. And we're certainly glad, because this is also a project that's been identified in our comprehensive plan. We will be meeting with them, and actually tomorrow morning. There will be probably some skin in the game from the city standpoint, although, and as I know from my peers, I know what these cost. So if you go out and contract, design, and build of one of these types of entrance signs, similar to what we have at the airport, it is a substantial investment. And I think whatever skin in the game the city is asked to do, whether that's rebuilding a fence where the sign is located, or pouring a foundation or a footing for the stone, I think we'll certainly be quite happy to do that. And Libby, did I miss anything?
Libby, would you like to add some comments? Come on up.
And I understand it's been on the city's heart probably for a while. It's going to be a lovely welcome sign, and we need it. And so the one at the airport ended up probably value-wise, maybe $10,000, $15,000. We had a lot of donated stone. We also had donated labor. This time the stone is going to be donated by the Mesgers and the Mesger Mill, including Ben Goodwin, and it's going to be quite large, 14 feet long. It's about 2.5 feet thick, and I think Bill said 6 to 7 feet tall. It's going to be mammoth, which is going to be great. As you're flying through, you're not going to be able to miss it. They're also going to do the metal work that says, "Welcome to Lampasas." And we'll probably not do any landscaping on it because it's a little ways out of town, so try to take care of it might be difficult. But I think we're going to probably get some type of great material like granite or something like that to kind of buffer it so it'll keep the weeds and things away from it. But it's going to be beautiful, and it'll tick it off a list, not only for the city but for Vision too.
Thank you, council. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
A couple of things, one for Ryan. Is there any plans on seal coating any more First Street?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Councilman Clark, we are going to continue seal coating. We had to stop, as the city manager had mentioned, we didn't have quite enough oil to do Naruna, so we still want to come back and do Naruna. We may extend First. One of the issues we'd had where we left off seal coating was there was some tree trimming needed to be done. We couldn't get a hold of the lady that lived in the corner house, but that may be one that we can identify. One of the other streets that we're hoping to seal coat this summer is Briggs. It needs, it basically where 4th and Briggs Street is, there's a new, that Mike Irvin's doing a new storage facility, plus some other amenities that he's doing there. So he's removed that curb. And so we're waiting for that curb to go back in, but while we still have our grader and we have staff capability and we still have enough time to seal coat, our hope is to basically redo that road, put a double seal coat on it, clean that one up.
Okay. Also, at First and Willis, there's quite a bit of gravel that has collected, and the kids are really enjoying it. But that'll also peel up your seal coat.
Right, that's correct. We like to typically leave it a week, but that week is up. We need to get out there and get that one swept.
Also, in the construction there at First and Key, they were in there yesterday laying storm sewer out in the right-of-way, and I didn't know if anybody knew that or not, or if we've been up there inspecting it today, or...
So I did notice that yesterday. We had requested the contractor, and that's the Starbucks location for everyone, just so we're on the same page. We did request probably Wednesday of last week for them to get their traffic control set up per the plans they'd submitted to the city. It is not set up yet. The intent was not to work until that traffic control is in place per their engineered plan. So we did issue a stop work order today on that, but there is inspections needed with that storm sewer. That's an engineered design. It's in TxDOT's right of way. It's the removal of the previous inlet that was there. Their Starbucks is shrinking that one down. So we've been working with them today trying to get that taken care of.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next item is mayor's comments. She'll be back for the next meeting, so we'll hold off on any comments till then. New business, 7.1, discussion and selection of website photo contest.
Mayor Pro Tem and City Council, there were 3 photo entries for the month of August.
Council? Selection?
I like entry number 3.
3.
Who all's in favor of 3 besides 2 of you? Got to get this in to...
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. Item number 3 is going to be the selection from the council. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Becky. Okay, item 7.2, discussion and possible action regarding the first reading of an ordinance to consider approval, denial, or approval with modifications for a specific use permit SUP to allow for an accessory structure commonly referred to as a guest house in an area zoned single-family residential 10, SF10, Lampasas County, Lampasas, Texas, for property described as Block 2, Lots 6 and 7, Fairview Addition, commonly known as 101 North Rice Street, Lampasas.
Council, this item was discussed during public hearing, and at this time, I'm asking you to consider a motion to approve, deny, or approve with modifications the first reading of an ordinance for a specific use permit.
I make a motion, we approve.
No.
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 I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. 7.3, discussion and possible action regarding approval, denial, or approval with modifications, the Gamble Addition minor plat with variances being all of 2 tracts of land and part of Lot 2, Block 30 of Matthew and Wilkes Addition, Lampasas, Texas, Lampasas County.
Council, this item was discussed during public hearing. At this time, I'm asking for a consideration of a motion to approve the plat.
I make a motion to approve the plat.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying yes, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Randy? Yes. Motion approved. Next is 7.4, discussion and possible action regarding approval, denial, or approval with modifications, the minor plat of Cresta de Mesa Soledad, 613 acres out of the James R. Cook Survey, abstract number 110, Lampasas County, Texas.
This item was discussed during public hearing, and at this time, I'm asking for consideration of approval of the minor plat of Cresta de Mesa Soledad, 6.13 acres, subdivided into 3 tracts within the ETJ of Lampasas city limits.
Need a motion and a second.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Finally.
Mayor, Council. Thank you. This item is from Snyder Engineering. It's a proposal for backup generation. So this is one that we were hoping to be able to do in-house, unfortunately, so that we could make sure all bidders had a fair take on the design and what was going to be required as far as electrical service and power to those facilities. We've requested a proposal from Snyder Engineering. Give me just a second. This actual proposal covers various installation of the generation, which includes key items, construction drawings, itemized material list, and cost estimate, bidding and contract support, construction support, field staking of generator locations, and bid specifications. So this particular item in the proposal was $30,000, $500, and that's for their engineering design of this. Our hope is once we have these plans back, we can put those out for either an RFB, request for bid, or request for proposal. The actual recommendation by Schneider Engineering was for 4 separate generators. The wastewater treatment facility obviously is one that's critical, so we were looking at critical infrastructure. The pump station on Spring Street is another one of our pieces of critical path for services we provide. Also the animal shelter, to keep that running after the winter storm. I think a lot of things were brought to light, and the addition for generation is needed. The funding for this would be through ARPA funding, so from government funding is what this one's slated for. Again, if the proposal is recommended by council, we would go out for bids, and it could be, depending on the cost estimates that come in, could be phased, 2 generators and then the next 2, or however council sees fit at that time.
Need a motion and a second.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Yeah, why is it $30,500 for just engineering for 4? That's a lot. It just seems like a lot of money.
So
I guess bottom line, what are we getting for $30,000?
Right. So a full bid design set with cost estimate, all the specifications. We were hoping before, as I'd mentioned, to not have to go out for design. We worked with our typical electrical vendor that does a lot of our workforce for water, wastewater, T. Morales, but there was some as bidders would come in. So there's a couple key critical things is where do we place the generator? And with costs of runs for the conduit and the actual conductors that go in that, there's significant cost depending on where you design and place that generator. So there's design factors that we as staff couldn't necessarily address, not knowing what all the items would be. Our intent was we could put it out, get bids in on the size of the generators. And one of the contractors, when we initially put it out for bid, said this particular generator for this location probably won't run it more than a couple hours. And so there were some discrepancies there, and so we felt that the need to get a real engineer design set of plans for each of these locations.
Yeah, it's more
was
for the
pretty critical.
circuitry and the disconnects.
Transfer
and-
switches.
And so on and so forth.
And I want to speak to that too, because we're in the same process with our business, putting in some generation. And I don't think $30,500 is out of line, because you can get things, your generator, $50,000 to $150,000, you can get things really fouled up.
Right.
So you want to spend the money on the front end to get the design correct. And I wished I would have done that.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yes.
Wasn't saying I was against it. I just wanted to know what it was
Sure.
for.
Yeah. I'd ask too.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. I think you're on the next
Thank
one
you.
too, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, discussion and possible action regarding proposal from Schneider Engineering for adjustment to the City of Lampasas double circuit distribution that crosses US 281 and continues in the Naruna Road right-of-way as part of the TxDOT project in the amount of $16,200. I'm gonna let you go ahead and talk to it before we have a motion, because these are kind of,
Move to approve.
okay. That was quick. I need a second. Is there a second? Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion now? Sorry.
Sure.
Is this primarily for the concrete pole?
This is for the design of the concrete pole, primarily in location. So there'll be probably one sheet site layout on where that pole placement goes, and then the rest of it will be design of that pole,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We're getting there. Discussion and possible action concerning the first reading of an ordinance approving and adopting a budget for operating the municipal government of the City of Lampasas for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2022, and ending on September 30th, 2023, appropriating money for the various funds and purposes of such budget, including appropriations of money to pay interest and principal sinking fund requirements of all indebtedness, providing a serviceability clause, providing a repealer clause for the repeal of all ordinances and appropriations in conflict with the provisions of this ordinance, and establishing an effective date.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. This is an ordinance to officially adopt the budget for fiscal year 22-23. And just as a reminder, it does have to be a recorded roll call vote.
Becky.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, Becky, if you would, please.
Councilmember Clark,
Aye.
Councilmember Keel,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Williamson,
Aye.
Councilmember Caney,
Aye.
Councilmember Pierce.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion set and carries. 7.8, discussion and possible action concerning the first reading of an ordinance setting the tax rate and levying a tax upon all property subject to taxation within the city of Lampasas, Texas, for the 2022 tax year for the use and support of the municipal government of the city of Lampasas for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2022 and ending September 30th, 2023, apportioning said levy among the various funds and items for which revenue must be raised, including providing a sinking fund for the retirement of the bonded debt of the city of Lampasas and establishing an effective date.
Again, Mayor Pro Tem, oh, sorry.
I was going to move that the property tax rate be decreased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.3156, which is effectively a 9.05% increase in the tax rate.
A second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion, please, ma'am. Nothing? Okay, all,
See if y'all had any questions.
oh, we're going again? Okay, sorry.
Was there any questions?
Recorded.
Councilmember Clark,
Aye.
Councilmember Keel,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Williamson,
Aye.
Councilmember Caney,
Aye.
Councilmember Pierce.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 7.9, discussion and possible action regarding ratifying the property tax revenue increase reflected in the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget.
I make a motion to approve the property tax increase reflected in the budget.
Need a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No. Again, back to you.
Councilmember Clark,
Aye.
Councilmember Keel,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Williamson,
Aye.
Councilmember Caney,
Aye.
and Councilmember Pierce.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Discussion and possible action regarding approval of the investment and strategy policy resolution.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. This is our investment policy. It does have to be reviewed annually and set by resolution each year. There has been no changes since the last approval.
I move to approve the Lampasas, City of Lampasas Investment Strategy Policy.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll read it first. 711, discussion and possible action regarding request by Vision Lampasas for hotel occupancy funds in the amount of $2,000 for event expenses related to the Indian Artifact Gem and Minerals Show to be held on September 17, 2022 at the Lampasas County Livestock Association Show Barn.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I'm here with Libby Blunter from Vision. They are requesting hot funding for the Indian Artifact Mineral and Gem Show. As it's noted in the packet, the last time this was funded was in 2019. They're looking for $2,000 in hotel occupancy tax funds for the event. If you have questions, I have Libby here as well.
Need a motion and a second?
I make a motion to approve hot funds in the amount of $2,000 for the Indian Artifact Gem and Mineral Show.
Any discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. 712, discussion and possible action to declare a 2005 F-150 as surplus and allow staff to dispose of as state law allows. Whoa.
Good evening again. Yes, this truck has 93,000 miles on it. It has currently been used as an additional truck for the water wastewater department. The transmission doesn't ship properly anymore. It has been utilized up and through August, but that's when they actually put it out of commission. The utility box does need some repair. It's in bad shape. And there's also some engine work that needs to be taken care of as well. So staff is recommending based on the staff is recommending based on the condition of the vehicle that is recommended removed from their fleet at this time and declare as surplus and allow staff to dispose of as state law allows.
Need a motion and a second. This is pretty routine for us.
I make a motion to declare 2005 Ford F-350 utility pickup as a surplus and allow staff to dispose as state law allows.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. 713, here we go. Discussion and possible action regarding terms of school resource officer interlocal agreement with Lampasas Independent School District.
Mayor and council, this item was discussed in workshop. We might ask council to consider a motion to approve the draft SRO with consideration of terms discussed during workshop and to allow the city manager to make minor edits and minor changes in terms no greater than $500 and execute the agreement.
So moved.
A
Second.
second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 714, discussion and possible action regarding terms of the EMS interlocal agreement with Lampasas County.
Mayor and Pro Tem and Council, this item was discussed in workshop. We'd ask that you consider a motion to approve the draft EMS interlocal agreement with consideration of terms discussed during workshop and allow the city manager to make minor edits and execute the agreement.
Need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Finley.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Yeah, all of them aye. Council is closed.